This is what I like to call the penitent witness protection program or prisoner exchange program, right? It seems like on Saturday afternoons, whenever confessions happen, penitents decide to go to neighboring parishes instead of their own parish priest. You've decided to go to confession, but your first instinct is to avoid your parish priest. So your first instinct then is to go to another parish. Have you ever found yourself in this conundrum? Today we're going to look at how to find a good priest confessor based on their confessional style and your particular peculiarities of your life. Let me start with a funny story. Years ago, when I worked in my home diocese in Virginia, I worked in a very rural parish. And because we were in a rural area, there were so many gaps in terms of how many parishes we had in our area. There could be one parish for the entire county. So many times when neighboring parishes, which were not just next door, like as in 5 minutes away, but literally in the next county needed help, I would go to the parish in the county next door and vice versa. Those priests would come to my parish to help with confessions, especially if we were anticipating a larger load of penitents, especially during Advent and Christmas. Well, I'll never forget, years ago, this is about 15, 20 years ago now, one of my brother priests in a neighboring parish, all of the parish priests in the parish, there were 4 of them, big parish, had fallen ill. And so they had Monday night confessions at their parish. I still think they do. And he asked me, would you be willing to come for dinner at 5 o'clock and then help me with confessions from 6 to 8? And being fraternal and hopefully a good brother priest, I agreed. And I'll never forget that after the dinner at his rectory, we went over to the church to hear confessions. And it was very, very clear that on the left and on the right side of the parish, most of the people who were lined up for confession were my parishioners. And this is what I like to call the penitent witness protection program or prisoner exchange program, right? It seems like on Saturday afternoons, whenever confessions happen, penitents decide to go to neighboring parishes instead of their own parish priest. I've talked to lots of penitents about this over the years, just for their gut reaction as to why they do that. And I think that you would be unsurprised if they told me that most of them do this is because they're afraid that as their parish priest, I might recognize their voice, which I find silly because regardless of who they are, I'm bound by the seal of confession anyway. But I still think there's this human side of this where they're concerned that if I know their sins, that I'll look at them differently or I'll treat them differently or somehow this will change our relationship. And of course, none of that is true, but it's still a perception that's very hard to overcome. So this gets me down to asking you, as the viewer, how do you pick the priest that you choose to go to for confession? I'll give you another story. In another parish in which I served, we were 3 priests. There was the pastor and 2 parochial vicars. I was one of the parochial vicars. And the 3 of us used to joke that we were like 3 different lines at the grocery. You had the express line, 10 items or less, cash only or credit card only. That was me. I was the quick confessor, okay? Didn't ask a whole lot of questions. You could come in, get your confession heard, and be on your way. The pastor took a little bit more time with the penitents, doing a little bit more of counseling, and the other parochial vicar was kind of well known for taking 10, 15, 20 minutes with each penitent, which of course, in an hour and a half confession slot, he only heard like 3 or 4 penitents at most. I was the high volume producing confessor. You get them in and get them out. And people would tell me, Father, I love going to confession to you because I go to confession to you, I can state my sins, you don't ask too many questions, and then I can be on my way. And your line moves. So you can see where I get my usual paradigm of be brief, be blunt, and be gone. Penitents appreciate that because they know that if they come to confession, they're going to be able to get their confession heard. Every penitent has to decide what priest or type of priest that they want to encounter in the sacrament of penance because, let's be honest, like homilists and homilies, we priests are not all the same. Some are very rapid and quick, and very, very regimental in their approach. Others take much more of a sort of a counseling, maybe more chat kind of approach, and others really spend a lot of time with individual penitents. I think the hard thing for many penitents is that sometimes they get into the wrong line, if you like. They're expecting confessions to go quickly, and they're in a line where the priest takes his time with each penitent, 10 or 15 minutes. And I know from my own experience of this that it starts creating in me uncharitable thoughts about the priest and the penitent who seem to be taking up all of the confession time, so much so that I may not even have a chance to go to confession at all, which is incredibly frustrating. So it's important that as much as you go to confession on a regular basis, you also identify the priest and the style of confession that you want to go to. I think that's a very, very important but often overlooked dimension of this sacramental practice. And moreover, it's not unhelpful, I think, that if you find a priest that you particularly connect with, you may even decide that you want to identify yourself to the priest in the confession, just so they know who you are and they know your story. They know that perhaps like you're married or you're single or whatever your state of life might be. And that way, you don't have to give any explanations of things. They know your basic story. And this, of course, happens to we penitents after many years of going to confession on a regular basis. And it's a tremendous joy to be able to just talk to Father. He knows who you are, and there's a great level of comfort and a great level of familiarity there, which allows you to enter more deeply into the spiritual fruits that the sacrament has to provide. If you like this video and others that we provide, please feel free to click on the links above. And as always, thanks and God bless.